I want to hear who some of everybody's favorite performers have been to work with.
Well,
and least favorite.
My experience is that, especially in recent years, more and more the music directors are the ones that deal with the cast, and they want to compartmentalize us. And I get my notes through the music director. I have to talk to the director, often choreographer, but very rarely do I have, an intimate conversation with any of the actors.
Well, the only reason that Michael Bennett said to me, something about this number isn't working. Will you work with her? Other than that, I agree with you. We don't get, we don't get that moment. There was a scene I did in The Life, and it was actually a scene. It had nothing to do with anything. And I fell in love with Chuck Cooper, who played the pimp. And this other guy put a gun to his face, and Chuck did this. And I said after rehearsal, I said, listen, I don't want to go over the director's head, but you're a bad MF. You're a pimp. This isn't the first time you've seen a gun pointed in your face and you back off like this. He said, you just went out of character for me. And he said, thank you, man. Thank you. And it was the last time he did that. He stood there with that gun right there as if to say, what are you going to do? Shoot, go ahead, shoot me. I don't care, shoot me. And the guy backs up. But, so, I mean, I love working with the actors, and Michael Bennett is the only one that allowed me to work with the actors and have input, with the actors, and partially because, Michael knew his music and he knew his choreography. The first day of rehearsal, he didn't know how to get the song started. So the big joke we had was Michael saying, and this was a scene that led into the song. He said, 5, 6, 7, 8, act. Whoever had the first line would deliver the first line. But, so, I mean, it's one of the things I love about theater. Every show is a different experience, and it's because of who the composer is, or who the director is, who the choreographer is, and if we're all team players. And I've been told, so-and-so is going to be really tough to work with. And I found out that it was like a love relationship we had. I mean, it was so, but I will bend my personality to every different director. That's my part of the job that we have to do. And it's not succumbing to them. It's just that this is a personality. And if I want to get what I want to get out for the benefit of the show, I will adjust my personality in dealing with this person. I will say, I thought about doing it that way when I never did, and I said, and the only reason I did this was because it felt like, it felt more like this. And he said, no, go ahead, finish explaining. And I would explain, until you have it. I love it. I never looked at it that way. But that's how I got certain things in, by changing my personality instead of saying, hey, you're going to change that, man. It doesn't work.
Anybody else want to contribute any stories about people you have or have not enjoyed working with? You don't have to name names if you haven't enjoyed it.
I've had a similar experience as to Harold. Of course, I worked with Michael extensively as well. But I would go to rehearsal. I like to go to rehearsal and just soak up the atmosphere of the show and just see what it was all about. And in the course of that, I would hear the timbre of everybody's voice and see what they needed acoustically to guide them, not only acoustically, but rhythmically, and whatever little nudges they needed to get going, or whatever barriers they needed. Not now. I'll tell you when. We do a lot of that sort of thing. And I would get to know the actors, especially back in the days when we had out-of-town tryouts. We were all hanging out together. It was like being in college. And the one thing you had to be very careful about was not to try to second guess the director and not step on the director's toes.
Unless you're talking about a pimp and a gun.
Yeah.
Well, Harold, I wouldn't have gone there, but
and a friend, Chuck was a friend, and it's almost like saying this is between us. goes nowhere else. But you know, you're the baddest cat.
Mm.
I was believing this is the baddest pimp in the world until that moment. And then I backed off and I lost all respect for you. So if that happens to the audience.
Well, you took a risk, Harold. A couple of years ago, I was in London doing a revival of Follies. And at the pub after rehearsal, the woman who was playing Phyllis, the Alexis Smith part, actually approached me and said, "How's my American accent?" And as a matter of fact, I had some issues with it because she was doing what we call a Burroughs accent from, you know, with the ands and the oh, I can't stand that kind of accent. And I rather daringly pointed out to her that Phyllis would never speak like that. She spent her whole life unlearning how to talk like that. I said, she wants to talk like you. And
I won't get to.
I left town the next day, so I never got to hear it from the director, but I did slip that once.